Alright, this morning I woke up with a new idea. I am going to make a backpack. So I don't really know exactly what it's going to look like or if it's going to work out, but here we go. I'm taking you guys along for the ride. I'm going to use Stitch Nation by Debbie Stoller, full of sheep, 100% Peruvian wool. This is a skein of 3.5 ounces, and we gotta make sure that it is hand wash, and it is a hand wash wool, so I do know that this will felt. The color, I'm trying to find a color on here, and not really finding the color. Ah, there we go. The color is passion fruit. So there we go, we got the passion fruit. And the other color I'm going to use, or the other yarn I'm going to be using, is Patton's Classic Wool. And it is hand wash, so I know that I can use it for felting. It's black, and it is 100% pure new wool, and it is 3.5 ounces. The crochet hook I'm using is the US J10 6.00 millimeter. Alright, let's get started. Alright, the backpack is done. Let's recap what we did here. First of all, I started with the front side. I made a total of actually 25 little squares. Each square is 8 single crochets across and 8 rows. So I lined them up 5 across and 5 up and down. So for a total of 25 little squares to complete the front side of the backpack. For the back side of the backpack, I made 40 single crochets and 40 rows. For each color, I did 2 rows of single crochet, and then I changed off colors and 2 rows of single crochet, and so on and so forth. The back piece, I decided to turn it lengthwise to give it that up and down stripe effect. Then the next part that I did was the straps. Beginning at the bottom, I took my yarn from my strap, and I attached it from the 3rd row on the edge of the back piece. And then I single crocheted across 8 single crochets and did that for 64 rows. If you want a longer strap, then of course you can make that longer. At this point, because I just pretty much designed this crochet pattern as I was crocheting, I honestly don't know if 64 is long enough. But if it's not, then lesson learned for the next backpack I make. So 64 rows, and then attaching it to the top. Because I have 40 rows, the center point would be row number 20. So I counted 20 rows from the edge of the back piece, and then at that point is where I started to attach the other end of the strap. And then the Did the same thing pretty much with the other strap, only started on third row from the edge of the bottom edge of the other side. Attached my yarn, 8 single crochets and 64 rows, and then counted the 20 rows, which at this point you don't really have to count because you already know where the center point is, and just attach the other end of the strap to the top half of the back piece. The next piece I continued to work was the flap. I attached the flap to the top corner of the top piece, and then I worked in 40 single crochets across and 20 rows. For this backpack, I changed colors halfway through, so I did 10 rows of black and then 10 rows of the passion fruit, and then I finished it off with a single row of single crochet around the entire flap. The next piece that I worked was the base. I attached the yarn again to the bottom corner of the back piece. In this case, it doesn't matter which piece you start with. In this case, I started with the back piece. I attached the yarn to the bottom corner, and then I worked 40 single crochets across, and I always tend to, I don't know, it's become my favorite number for the bases of my purse is 16 rows. So 40 single crochets across and then 16 rows, and then after that I attached it to the other side. After I had the base attached, then I started to work on the sides. For this, because I didn't have the strap on the side, I wanted to make it a lot more narrow towards the top. So what I did was, again, attached to the bottom corner of the base, and I worked 16 single crochets across, and at the end of each side I slip stitched to the front and back pieces. By doing this, your slip stitch actually counts as your chain one when you're ready to turn. And at the same time, by doing this, you save a little bit of yarn because you don't have to go back later on and attach the piece that way. So I went pretty much midpoint, which was, because I have 5 little squares, the midpoint would have been halfway of the third square. At this point I didn't really count rows. I just went up about halfway of the bag, and then I started to decrease. And the way I did that was at each corner I would skip 1 single crochet. So the first set of decrease I did was for 14 single crochets. So I skipped the 1, single crocheted 14, and then skipped the last, and then slip stitch. And I did the 14 for 3 rows, and at that point, after that, then I decreased the same way all the way up the bag, but I did that with each round, so it started to narrow a lot faster. So each round, so then the next one was 12 single crochets and 10 single crochets and 8 and 6 and 4, then until you got down to 2. When I got down to 2 single crochets, then I kept it that way all the way up, and I pretty much hit 2 single crochets right at the base of that last square. So I did 2 single crochets all the way across. did that for both sides, and that was it. And at the last minute, I decided to add a little pocket on the side. So the way I did that was I, again, attached my yarn to the bottom corner of the base, and I went 16 single crochets across, and then I did 18 rows. So 16 single crochets across, and then 18 rows. Once I had 18 rows, then I took my yarn needle, and then I attached the sides to the sides of front and back sides. So there you have it. Now I have a little pocket. So this baby is ready to be felted.